It has begun!
COVID Part 1, a disclaimer. There is really no way for you, me, or anyone listening here to prove whether or not the virus exists. The claims of the virus are what are important. The news spread of the virus is more important than it actually existing. That is what we all reacted to. There are multiple layers to this that intertwine on multiple levels simultaneously. It gets really complex and out of control really fast. I will try to do this as cleanly as possible. So, COVID, Part 1, the space program. What is COVID-19 supposedly? It is a condition in which the body does not uptake oxygen properly. Well, what does this have to do with the space program? Well, the purpose of a virus is to mutate the genome of the creature you put it in. COVID-19 restrictions were used as cover to install 5G. 5G is a high-frequency cellular technology that vibrates oxygen molecules so that the red blood cells cannot absorb them properly. The face masks afford you the opportunity to breathe in your own carbon, limiting your oxygen uptake. All the way across the board, this whole thing limits oxygen uptake to the cells, which of course causes a limited oxygen uptake to the brain. What does social distancing have to do with oxygen uptake? Well, you see, the genetics we're born with, when we're shot out of the womb, the genetics we're born with, that's our factory reset. When human beings, because we are just giant electromagnetic towers, every cell is made of molecules, every molecule has an electromagnetic signature, therefore we emit an overall electromagnetic algorithm called an aura. We emit an electromagnetic field. When our electromagnetic fields get too close to each other, they create resonance, which induces factory reset. This inhibits adaptation to all the oxygen inhibition tactics I mentioned prior. So, essentially, you stack all these things on top of each other. And you add to that the 100 monkey experiment, where like if you taught 13 monkeys a skill, the other 87 spontaneously just woke up and had that skill. It works with genetics as well. So if you subject enough humans in a tight enough space to certain circumstances, the entire population will mutate genetically to accommodate those circumstances. Okay. So why would they want to turn us into creatures who can't get as much oxygen in our system? Why would they mutate us into human beings who can survive on less oxygen? Well, consider that they're not doing this in third world countries. The COVID's only being used in first world, high-tech, primarily space-faring civilizations. Let's go over that again. Why would they be trying to mutate the genome of first world civilizations into human beings that survive on less oxygen? Because there's no fucking Home Depot on Mars, and Uber ain't charting trips back and forth from Mars to Earth yet. Mars has a thinner atmosphere, and the most precious thing we're going to need when we get there is to be able to breathe on our own. So they need to mutate the first world genomes to human beings who survive on less oxygen. So when we get on Mars, that is one less technology and one less hindrance we need to survive and colonize. You see, 5G goes into that as well, because 5G is also an electromagnetic disinfectant, which is what's going to have to be running 24/7 in the ships we take, that we land there and use for housing, because we don't know what's going to be living on Mars or what's going to, land on the hull while we're traveling through space. So the quicker we adapt to less oxygen, the sooner we can travel into space safely. Because unfortunately, we don't have the flying Marriott Assembly Center that Captain Picard did yet. We have very rudimentary spacefaring tools. And one of our best chances for survival is to create a human genetic line that is adapted to surviving on less oxygen. And if you remember, early on, Trump mentioned something about wanting to annex the moon as U.S. property, which, whether that was him trolling or not, it was great. And that he wanted to take human beings to Mars. He wanted to be the president that took human beings to Mars. And Elon Musk, since like 2014, has been pushing to take us to Mars as well. In fact, the inaugural Dragon rocket launch he used to shoot a Tesla car into space on a trajectory towards Mars, which, of course, anyone who heard about it laughed at, like, oh, what a billionaire show-off, throwing one of his $150,000 cars into space just for the fun of it. Well, someone like him doesn't become as successful and wealthy as they have by doing frivolous, costly things like that. Elon Musk launched that Tesla car into space for a reason. It had more diagnostic sensors than you have nerves in your body. And that thing's been recording inconceivable amounts of minutia, just infinitely small aspects of data ever since he launched it. Why? Because all that data on that trip from Earth to Mars is being collected, filtered, and analyzed so that they can know what to prepare for and what to build so that human beings can survive the trip. So there is a strong possibility, I've conceived, that the COVID is part of mutating the human genome to create human beings that can survive on less oxygen so that we can survive the trip to Mars and the colonization of Mars more readily. Might be a good sci-fi book. Might turn out to be plausible 10 years from now. Don't know. Food for thought, my friends. And stay tuned for COVID Part 2.
Is it over?